Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Move Me to Texas team here with another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I'm excited for this week's podcast guest. Can't wait to dig into her journey and all of the leadership lessons learned along the way. We met last year at a real estate event, and I'm glad that we are able to do this podcast today. So before real estate, she was in hospitality. As she got into real estate and her career took off, she was a very early adopter of the team model. So I'm excited to dig in on that. Having a team since 2010, she's a realtor, a team leader, a mother, a wife, and a Minnesota native. Please join me in welcoming Beth Nordaune.
Oh, thank you, Katie. I'm excited and honored to be here. And especially, it's been a big topic in our house that I get to talk to you today because you are the one with the shoes.
I
And
am.
an impression on my 18-year-old daughter. Yeah.
I know. I love it. All right. So being in real estate, how did you get into real estate? I know that you were in hospitality and you eventually were a trainer and a mentor in that space, right? What was the transition or segue into real estate?
Mm-hmm. My father was a realtor, and so I'm a second generation realtor as well. I did not want to do real estate. I loved looking at all the MLS books, like way back in the day growing up. My sister and I would like pick which house we wanted on each page. But it was out of just necessity for a job. I was a corporate trainer for TGI Fridays. I traveled to Portugal, the Carolinas, Florida, all over Texas, Dallas, and opened
Can we just pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
You said the first place you said was Portugal, yes?
Portugal, yes.
So I love how you're like, oh, and also, Texas and the Carolinas and Florida, blah, 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 Georgia, whatever. You're like, and also, by the way, Portugal. But anyways, so you traveled around helping to open stores.
Yes. And I trained the trainers and like the front of the house staff. And it was like going to camp. It was super fun. But I just got tired. I was 26 at the time. I'm going to put some math clues in here. And I decided that I really just wanted to meet somebody, settle down, start my life, not always be gone for 30 days at a time. I needed a job. And my father, this is in 2001, was really busy in real estate. He had a big condo development. It was the last big boom. Now it's one prior.
Great times.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the last boom. Actually, was just happened, finished. It was the first, the other one, like one before. And I came back and was an assistant for him for the summer. I got my license, and just honestly, got thrown into it. I got my license August 1st of 2001. My dad had been working 80 to 100 hours. And then he said he really needed a break. He was going to go away for the weekend to the lake, and he ghosted me for a month. So I was like fully in this condo development, all these sales, and I could not reach my father for the whole first month. I was a licensed agent.
Oh my goodness.
Learned really fast, like how to, jump in and get started.
That's wild.
So that was how I got in.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me. I find very few children that their parents are realtors want to be in real estate, right? Like it's always like they have the career, or they do the thing, or they go to school, or they do something, and then they circle back to it. Like it's never like, if you're listening and, you're a second or a third or a fourth generation realtor that followed in your parents' footsteps, like shoot me a DM and let me know. I'd love to chat with you about that. But most people is exactly what you said. You're like, I saw my parents do it. I saw my dad do it, whatever, and wasn't really into it. And then, ended up coming to it. I can't imagine, what that was like, having a condo development, knowing the early 2000s were a very busy time in real estate. Like, that's wild. I'm sure that's helped you a lot with your background, and then your entry into real estate and how you've built your team and training, right? Like if you were training trainers, if you're training new employees, and then, you had kind of a rough, entry into real estate. Yeah. Like I can see how, that may have progressed. So you said you got in the early 2000s. About 10 years later, you started a team. So walk me through like how the team came about.
My favorite thing right now is seeing a lot of people getting into the business and what they're doing in the space of real estate. Because when I started, I actually started in the paper era, and I knew the computer, which, that was like cutting edge, that I could like do Microsoft Publisher, and I had a digital camera. That was like, wow.
You got to adapt with the times, right?
Exactly. So I always wanted to keep that mentality is to always be innovative, to how can we better give a better experience, because that's was my like love before, is that was a whole Fridays thing, right? You're supposed to go to Fridays and have this like super fun experience. And I wanted to bring that into this space in 2010. That's, I would say, I say my official start. I had, if you want to say, assistants prior to that, but that's when I actually had agents and like administrative people, small team. And nobody had a team, and I spent a lot of time just even trying to explain what it was. It just really was like Tom Ferry, bottom, just a few, Darren, a lot of people, Jeff Thibodeau. I can just start listing off people that we were all in that space and starting this team. And I saw the value in it. And I know a team always outperforms an individual, and just kind of started from there. And you're right, my background and desire, how much I love just people, psychology, training, and helping people just be a more successful version of themselves, whatever that is,
Yeah.
has always been a passion of mine. So it fit really well in that space.
Well, and so, I mean, I think that we know that like the real estate industry isn't always very collaborative, right? So I can see where,
Yes. Yes.
now it's like
Oh,
everyone's talking about teams, right?
yeah.
And it's something that's just so common. And
hmm
honestly, I would say it's like the pendulum swing in the opposite direction, right? How many
Yes.
years later of like everyone has a team, but like should you have a team? What does
Yes.
that look like? Like, is it actually a team?
hmm
Um and all of that. So it's interesting to see kind of the trends, in real estate and things like that.
hmm
Okay, so looking back on it now, right? Like I know you advise many agents, I know you've coached agents, I know, you are in conversation with many, many agents. Like, if you could identify maybe two or three key things, if I were starting a team today, right? Like I'm an agent with a good amount of business, probably more than I can handle, things are falling through the cracks and I need to like do something. What
hmm
should I do in those first kind of building blocks of creating something bigger than myself?
Yes. So absolutely. I think you alluded to it earlier, that I think I always speak to, why do you want to have a team? Because a lot of times it does start, it did for me as well. It started from, I have more leads than I can handle. And I think one maybe difference is I wasn't looking at it as a monetary, but it was, how could I help other people do what I've done, or serve those like buyers and sellers the way that I think they should be when I'm not available. And that was good start, but I really think it's having that heart for wanting to step in fully. Like, we should, as standalone agents, be thinking we are running a business, we're entrepreneurs, but really stepping into that business kind of corporate mindset of, I'm going to develop an organization and I want to help the people that want to buy and sell home. I want to
Yeah.
help agents and go from there. So I think, why is, for whom and for what are you doing this, and
Okay.
starting there, right? And the second thing is I love it, I call it You Incorporated. It's from a Stephen Pressfield book called The War of Art, and I love it. He said, you really need to be clear on who you are and what you're about, what you were as an agent, as that standalone. Why did you get to the point where you had more than you could handle? Why do people like working with you? Who are you? And then kind of having that be your framework for your brand, right? Because
For
that's
sure.
really what this all comes out of our team is, it's an expression of the way that we believe real estate should be practiced. And then I think when you're going to bring other people into your space, like, you really need to be able to paint this like clear and compelling future, like, of where you're all headed to and where you're going, because that's the best way to build culture and align everybody, is around that, more than sales numbers. I have too much leads, because you're going to
Yeah.
hit up against all these roadblocks if you build it on those principles.
I love that you say that, and I don't know if your team building experience was different from mine, but it's like one of the things is like I definitely didn't have that in the beginning,
Mhm.
right? It was just like,
I
hey,
didn't. No.
okay, all right, cool, like good. I'm glad to hear that because I'm like, shit, I
Yeah.
didn't have any of that going on.
Yeah.
But mine was just like I have too much going on. I need help.
Mhm.
Like who can help me here? And my most successful agents on the team, whether they're still with me or if they've gone and done their own thing, is like the ones that had that flexibility and adaptability. And like I always say that the phrase like building the plane as we fly it, right? And so while I didn't always have a clear and compelling future, it's like, hey, I think that us together, like we can do more together than we would be able to do apart. I can help you with knowledge and other things. I don't know what all of those things are, but like let's do this. And like they
Yeah.
jumped on, right? But then once you're a team the size that yours is, selling the amount of homes that y'all sell, like you definitely have to have like the vision and the value prop and be able to clearly articulate that for sure.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, I've made all those mistakes. I was this in the same boat as you where I just needed help. How fast can we get there? No future. I mean, we're just helping people, right? I mean,
Paddling, trying to keep our heads above water
yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
But I think it was such a difference. And okay, so what we see as realtors, and I see a lot of early team leaders do, and I was the same way. I go to a conference, I listen to somebody, I hear something, and I would walk into my admin office, ops, whatever, and say, oh my gosh, you guys, you know what? We're going to do this today. And they said it was like constant change and constant, like, I mean, one day it's like, you know what? I'm just going to blow it all up. I'm done. And what I know now looking back is like, do you know how stressful that was for them to
Yeah,
work in that space? And even as
for
an
sure.
agent, where it's like, am I going to be here? Is this going to be here? Should I be leaving? And that I was my biggest thing is to step into leadership, to shut my mouth, find who I was going to talk to about it. Not everybody on the team, which I see that people want. It's a lonely space as an entrepreneur. If you don't have that community, we can make the mistake of thinking our employees and our agents are a community that we should be discussing everything with. And it's not. You're the leader. They're there to follow you into your future that you set, not to if they wanted to be a leader, they would have done it, right?
For sure. Well, and I think that along those same lines, I had a thought in my head that has flown out. You
That
ever have that?
happens. Oh
I was
yeah.
like, oh, I have a really good counterpoint and thought to what she just said. So oh, I think the biggest thing for me is like in changes we've made to the team or different things, whether it's like a brokerage change or, we're gonna change a lead source or we're doing something like that. Like
Mhm.
I've always tried to keep things as status quo as possible, right? So, like,
Yes.
say we're making a change to a new brokerage. It's not like, hey, we're going to go to a new brokerage. You have to learn all these new forms. And we're also then going to change our CRM. We're going to change your phone numbers. We're
Yes.
going to change like, it's like, hey, let's just change this one thing and then evaluate our choices and like kind of go from there. And then your point of like coming back from a conference or coming back from a
Yeah.
mastermind and just like throwing up all over your team with
Mhm.
ideas.
Mhm.
For most people that are in admin positions, right? Like they have
Mhm.
more of like the SC disc
Yes.
personality where they like the
Yes.
steady,
Mhm.
steady pace and like the different things like that. And so like those moments I know are just like gut wrenching for them.
Gut wrenching.
So understanding kind of where people are at. What going to a conference or something like that, like I don't know if you ever have where your entire team goes. Do you guys
Mhm.
do anything of like an idea debrief or like ranking ideas after a conference or anything that you do of like, hey, I know we all have 1,000 things, like here are the things we're actually gonna implement, and then anything like that?
Mhm. I do absolutely. I think that, um, like I said, to your point, sometimes I think we make the mistake of running a democracy where it really needs to be like well, I mean, we can have a say, you can weigh into it, but ultimately you call the shots. It's your business. My love expectations. I could seriously talk about it for days. So I love setting expectations when someone goes to a conference. If you're a new, it's your first time, I'll say, what do you want to get out of this? And typically it's like, I don't know, I've never been to one. So I'll say, here's some things I think that'd be a good idea is like just, be open, have fun, it's gonna feel like a fire hose.
Yeah.
It just write down some things. Then there's some people that have been with me for a while and it might be like, what do you want to go? And I've had this conversation over years and some love the connection and the referrals and potentially meeting other agents. And some it's like, what could we do to bring back to the team that we might want to implement now or in the future? And how would I always say, grow our business, or like, help us be better and putting some kind of guidelines around it because everyone comes back and everybody wants to do everything. And maybe you've done it in the past, it doesn't work. But I think if you put some kind of boundaries around it, then it's up to them and they can do whatever they want. But
Yeah.
what do I want from them as a team leader if I'm going to bring them along, right? And what
Yeah. Yeah.
experience do
Yeah.
I want them to have? So we do a quick debrief, but like you said, a lot of things we plan a year in advance as far as like, what are we trying to do this year, this quarter, like work in quarter blocks, 90-day, 100-day blocks. So right now, if we talk about things I've learned to, we'll say, hey, that's a really great idea. Let's go talk about it at Q2 or Q2 has always been for us, like, you know what, just kick ass and sell a lot of homes. That's what all of us are going to do and support each other and go gangbusters. Right. And then we'll talk about, for 3, 4, what do we want to do or roll it into next year? It's
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that we have to implement all this change like right now, but it's always like just like you said, small goals, small, simple things over time, that compound effect is so profound. And we actually get it to implementation and execute instead of just talk, talk, talk and consume, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
it's a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, we after I guess it was Tom Ferry Summit, we said like, okay, what I want to know is like, what are the 1 to 3 things you're going to implement in your own business,
Mm-hmm.
right? As an agent on the
Mm-hmm.
team, and then what's something that you would like or you think could be interesting for us to implement as a team. And so it was cool because like the as a team thing, like a lot of people had common threads, so it was easy to do like a couple of those ideas kind of thing, like
Yeah.
in hey, let's do this in Q2 or Q4 or whatever. And then for the individual ones, it's like then it's up to you on what you make of it,
Right.
right? But like
Right.
realistically, like the 1 to 3 item implementation is like way more doable than, having that list of 10 things that you want to do. Cause it's like you get
Yes.
one done and that doesn't feel great.
In my coaching, I always say, and again, like you said, you can make small tweaks, adjustments much easier. But anything that is considered big, meaning that someone's going to feel the change, that's big.
Yeah.
That's it's not necessarily rehauling. I'm talking someone's going to notice, is one per quarter, and really that's it. So no more than 4 kind of things a year that we're trying to do that someone's going to notice it's a change, because it will mess up your culture and your team, and people do not like. That's why they're on a team, is stability, right? And we need it more than ever now, especially with everything happening in the world. It's so much distraction. Just the way people feel, like they just
Yeah.
need to have a place that's a solid ground, and a community that they're in, collaboration with, that they feel like we can innovate here. I'm safe here. I know what to expect when everything else is changing all the time, especially in real estate.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. Um, Kind of switching gears a little bit from the team aspect, and kind of talking to either like an individual agent or a newer agent. What are some things that you are, following along with or reading or listening to, whether it's a book or an audible or a
Mhm.
podcast on like the personal slash professional development front? Like, do
Hmm.
you follow any authors or people on social media or anything like that, from that development standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, that's like my favorite thing is people. I feel that I'm an avid reader. I probably read a book a week. I
Yeah.
love reading. So even right now, I'm reading one on crucial conversation. So
Okay.
to me, I think that the only thing that you can change that really is impactful in your own personal life is yourself, right? I mean, we can't change others as much as we'd like to, or the people we work with, or
Yeah.
like what have you. So it's mostly like, how do I continue to grow as a salesperson, as a leader, as someone in the community, as someone who wants to give back? And I think that what I believe, I would say, and there's a lot of us that say, I followed the Tom Ferry model, right? I'm so thankful for Tom. I worked with Tom and for him as a coach. And it was a framework and something to follow that I believed in. And of course, you make it your own. But whatever that is, like whether it's the millionaire real estate agent, Gary Keller's book is pretty phenomenal and holds true today. There's so many out there. Like, find something or someone that you want to model and make it yours. And then I really think the biggest thing in real estate is communication, right? Because it's relationships, and that's something that a computer tech, when we talk about, pairing of us as humans and technology, our ability to help people get to their goal, our ability to help people communicate, to understand what's in their head and pull it out, our ability to, negotiate, troubleshoot, problem solve,
Yeah.
etc., is what is going to never go away. And well, I want to say, I don't think it'll ever be replaced, right? They've tried and they realize that human is so important. So I think that honestly, anything about communication, I love. I follow. I mean, I think a lot of the ones that, like the Daily Stoic, and kind of just being a great human being, I feel like, and Tim Ferriss. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
so Gary. I mean, there's so many, but it's, I would say, if you could just, I see that especially with people younger than me, is that it's totally cool. And my daughters are the same way. They're scared as I'll get out to like go into the gas station, and we had to work on like, what do you say to the person at the counter? How do you buy something? They're so scared because they don't communicate verbally that often. It's all through, you know, Instagram, DMs, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
cool, but you really do need that skill. And so I
Yeah,
see that
for
when I work with
sure.
a lot of younger people, it's like, you need some confidence and you need to learn how to communicate. Cause right now, if I heard you on the phone or you texted me or I talked to you, I would feel like, I don't know if you're the one that can help me get it done. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you said the book you're reading now, so you said
Oh,
Crucial Conversations is what it's
yeah.
called?
Crucial Conversations. My favorite books that I really feel like defined what I was able to do is the 4 Disciplines of Execution.
Okay. Yeah,
These are
for
like
sure.
my game changer books. Scaling Up, which the first time I read it, I thought I was so over my head, but I kept it. And it's cool when you go back to those and you see how you grow, where you start to
I
understand
I
them,
love
right? Have you
that
had
when you
this?
like you
You love
have a
it?
book and then like you go
Yeah.
back and you read it again and like you're in a different,
Yes.
time of your life and it definitely like hits differently.
It hits
I
differently,
also
totally different stuff. Yeah.
like some of the like the compound effect, Darren
Love
Hardy and things like
Compound
that, like
Effect.
the
Oh,
easier reads, that
yes.
like you just again, when you read them in a different time in life, I feel like
Mhm.
they resonate a little bit differently than they may have the first time.
They totally do. And there's another one called like a simple, like, I hear you, which is just about like really understanding that someone knows that they're validated and that you heard them, right? It's just
Yeah,
a whole book about it. Sounds really simple principle. And I can't, I'm blanking out now on, I just reread one too, and I was so blown away because I took completely different stuff out of it by pulling
for sure.
something that I had in the past. But books, audiobooks, right? I mean, when I was
Love them.
busy putting in my car podcast, doesn't matter. But I think that what I see too is having some sort of focus, right? Just like we talked about on the team as a standalone agent, is what do you want to grow? And then like model what you're listening to and what you're, taking in that genre, right? So if I'm gonna work on
For sure.
communication, specifically this, because as somebody who teaches still to this day, I see people and they're like, oh, I'm in this expired class and I'm taking this team class and I'm taking this social media class and I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just taking all these classes to figure it out. And that's cool. There's a discovery period. But at some point, you need to like just have some intention behind it and
Yeah,
like step into something, right? And
for
try
sure.
it for a period, because I think
Yeah.
you're just bouncing around.
And that intention, like discovery versus like mastery is what I would kind of, think about,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And so, you're mentioning a lot of like things around language patterns and
NLP. I love
conversations.
NLP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And things like that. And so, taking this back to kind of the leadership and team aspect, but it could be relevant for individual agents as well, is like, do you guys do a lot of script practice and role play and things like that at all?
A lot of times I did that when it was a smaller team, and when it got larger, I think it's really intimidating, and I want people to feel comfortable and with growth and vulnerable. So we do create a smaller group where they do practice those,
Nice.
where it's like that space, or tell them to do it with a friend, family member. I think scripts, I'm sure this is a common belief, that they are there as a framework until you say it enough times, you're bored, and then you're going to add your own language into it, right? It's never
1,000%.
meant to
Yeah.
be read off verbatim. Um, but I think that we, what I preach from, like, from the team that I'm running and the size it is now, is I work with about, you need backup leadership, right? You need levels of an organization. So there's like 16 people, then there's 9 people, then there's 4 people, then there's 3 people that are at the core, right? But I'm kind of coaching up leaders and
Yeah.
trainers in anything you do, in your feedback, in your meetings, in anything. It's like just keeping it simple on one-on-ones is like one goal, one reason. And so often we have 5 minutes, we do this just dump. And like you said, with a compound effect, we don't see change or movement, right? So it's really just keeping things, it sounds so, but as simple as you can, right? And even for yourself, like, even I Love You Inc. The whole point of it is that you have a weekly meeting with yourself, and it's like, great. Okay. What am I troubleshooting? What's the one thing I could do right now? What's have the biggest impact or move my business forward? Or what's the, one reason, and just focus on one at a time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
huge. I think in communication too, I'm like, I think I see on teams a lot this, and I don't think it's intentional, but when if you ever want to get past 4 people, is that, you cannot be the hoarder of information, and you cannot, you think that I know it, and you need to be really transparent. One of the things I really realized when I really started to grow is the more I shared and made sure everybody else, like, right, went to the conference with me, to
Yeah.
bring it back to that, heard the same messaging, the faster and faster it grew in understanding our future, rather than thinking like I had the master plan. And you just become a huge bottleneck more than anything.
For sure.
Right?
Well, and we'll go through processes sometimes and I'll realize that I am the bottleneck. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, hey, we need to have a different process for this because like
Yes.
if I'm ignoring the message or don't see the message or I'm doing something, like I can't be the one that's holding up the process, right?
Right.
Just for context for those that are listening, what does the team look like today as far as like staff and agents, kind of ballpark? Because I know you guys do like over 100 million, top team in the state. What does that look
Yeah,
like?
so we do, we have about 38 agents and growing like pretty fast. It's like I've heard that from some of my counterparts that I think once you hit, there's certain numbers like 40, it just seems to be kind of taking off. We have a director of operations, we have a business development person, marketing. What I'm really proud of. So, we have a lower price point here than some of the rest of the country, and we did just under 500. We just last year. But when I learned about what last year was, that it was similar to 2008 or 1995, I'm actually really happy, right? But it's like just under 500 transactions.
Yeah.
And we have 2 coordinators and 1 VA.
That's wild. Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
process for you. That's like, right, like automation, process,
Yeah.
tech, but then pairing it with humanity. And I think that because to take it all the way back to 2008, 9, it was me and 4 admin. So back then it took 4 people to run me. And now we have, 3 people running 40 people, 500 transactions, which is pretty wild.
A couple new processes, and systems along the way, I hope, from 08 till now.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. I love, man. And I am excited. I never have, been scared of or had a fear of change or technology, right? Or whatever's happening. It's more like, how can I use it and adapt it, and really knowing, like I said earlier, what we do, because like even with AI, it's been great how fast we can, or a lot of systems and programs create operations manuals. I mean, I used to have to sit and physically write all that and come up, right? I mean, it's really great to be a great time to be in real estate, and really a huge opportunity if you wanted to have a business and actually grow and scale something. It'd be pretty cool, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so I'm gonna hit you with one question that I give every person that comes on the podcast, and so it would be, if it was your last meal on Earth, what would you be eating?
If it was my last meal, I would eat a cheeseburger and French fries and a chocolate malt.
I love it. Classic, but amazing. That's awesome. Cool. So Beth, if someone doesn't already follow you on social, what's the one place where they should connect with you?
I am only really on Instagram and gonna maybe start TikTok, but yeah, Beth Nordaune is where you find me on Instagram, to follow me. And from there, right, you can hopefully get to where you need to as far as things I'm doing, events, etc. But that's where I live, is in that one space. Yep.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you sometime soon.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.